better world is possible. None of us got to choose the station of life into which we were born, especially not during tumultuous periods like the one we are in now. Sometimes when you are struggling to survive, it is understandable that you might look at the world you have inherited and accept it with little question. But the way things are is not the way they have to be. Change is possible. Politics, culture, the economy are not objective forces of nature the way that gravity or the speed of light are. These things are the products of collective human decisions. They are subjective, they are fickle, and thus liable to change. If they appear static to us, that is due more so to our collective lack of imagination than to anything else. If the status quo is unbearable for you, then the first and most difficult step to take on the path to change is to re-examine all the things in life that you take for granted. A better world is possible. Watching the ongoing protests over the death of George Floyd unfold across America, one can't help but be reminded of another protest movement which began almost 10 years ago. In only the most subtle ways does Black Lives Matter call to mind the Arab Spring, but the feeling is undeniable. It feels as though people have had enough. No matter what the government says or does, people seem almost determined to effect change no matter the personal cost. But just like the Arab Spring, the Black Lives Matter protests of today face the imminent dangers of police repression and government crackdowns. The brutality Americans are experiencing every day is the same brutality protesters faced in Tunisia and Egypt 10 years ago. For these dictatorships were allies of the United States, and their repressive tactics are now being emulated stateside. The repression the African American community suffers daily is the same repression endured by the Egyptian or the Saudi today, because they are all manifestations of America's global empire. Do not make the same mistakes the Arabs made 10 years ago. Do not give up. You have legitimate grievances that need to be redressed, so keep fighting the good fight. This YouTube channel was originally conceived as an avenue for discussing contemporary Middle Eastern politics. Our first video was meant to be on the current economic crisis in Lebanon. However, during the writing process, we saw the protests erupt in the United States and felt obliged to speak out in solidarity. Something that we feel is important for us all to remember is that no struggle for dignity and self-determination is occurring in isolation. All of our struggles overlap with one another in some way because racism, classism, sexism, etc. are all manifestations of the same universal problem, the problem of global empire. The Palestinian lives under the same apartheid the South African once endured. Working-class Americans and working-class Lebanese people live under the same capitalist-induced poverty. The African and the South American refugee are fleeing the same climate change. We all have our own burdens to bear, but we must make sure to never lose sight of one another. To all my African American brothers and sisters, I say, keep fighting the good fight. A better world is possible. One quick edit. Hey everyone, during the production of this video, we were hit with some tragic news. We here at the channel are huge fans of Michael Brooks, host of the Michael Brooks Show, and we were deeply saddened at the news of his recent passing. This came as a tremendous shock to the entire community of viewers and thinkers, all brought together by the brilliant mind that was Michael Brooks. He was an inspiration to us all and a boon to the left. We are all of us worse off with his passing. Rest in power, Comrade Michael.